Okay, here we go. So starting off, a quick reminder again, I know Cassandra's been bugging you. So again, I appreciate you guys hanging in there. But we do last call here this week. We got to get the RSVPs in. So if you have no RSVP to our Christmas and holiday party, make sure you do that. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to have a blast. I'm just looking forward to it so much and hanging out with everyone and really blowing off some steam and having good fun with each other with some great food, dancing, music, live band, the rest of it. It's going to be a great time. Make sure you RSVP to Cassandra. And as well, just some learning opportunities coming up. One of the things, for those of you who don't know, we typically do this a couple times a year, and this year's been really thrown on its head on many different ways. But we're going to wrap up the year with our one-on-one annual reviews. So this is where we'll meet with one of our brokers, either myself, Liz, or Elliot, and we will be talking about the year that's passed, what's happened, what's worked, what didn't work, how you doing, and then looking at 2022 and discussing your goals, your targets, and strategies for 2022 and how we can help. And so we're going to be doing these in person or over Zoom. It's your decision on what you want to do, but we'll be conducting those basically starting next week and into all the way through the holiday season and into early January for these, because I know there's a lot of people on vacations and in a country, out of country, all that kind of jazz. So it's kind of what you'll be getting is emails will be coming out, and then we'll be having links to kind of book your time slot in each of our calendars. So just giving you a heads up, that's going to be coming. So make sure you take a look at that and make sure you book time slots in, because they do fill up rather quickly. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Reminder, Roll Page has a whole bunch of different lead generation, repeat and referral marketing systems. Trainings coming out this month. So you can see here, most of those ones are gone, but talking about your website here for ramping up traffic, SEO, etc., and drip campaigns, repeat and referral systems through your CRM on those days there. You can go check that out at rlp.ca/training or on the Roll Page network, and you can get a hold of all of those wonderful trainings. As well, I just want to show you a few more of them. There's an exclusive for team leaders. This is on December the 16th, so it's just a month away today. For the team leaders there, Richard Robbins and Phil Soper are going to be hosting. It's kind of an all-day event here from 10 to 4 Central Time. We'll be looking at all of these wonderful factors, and for our team leaders there, talking about the future, growth, profitability, leadership, lead generation, and further tools. So it's going to be fantastic. It's an exclusive event just for Roll Page team leaders. So if you have a team, make sure you register there, and it is $49 per person for that one on December 16th. So take that one off. It's going to be fantastic. Robbins is good stuff. As well, if you need some additional training, here we got from Brian Buffini and Jamie Nowak. Tomorrow, actually, it will be 2 o'clock Central Time. There is a training with Jamie Nowak, Buffini's master trainer, 60-minute webinar, and talking about, again, creating and expanding a profitable business, mindset proven systems, and how to ensure 22 will be a great year. So again, Buffini, Mark, if you don't know Brian Buffini's systems are fantastic again, and a lot of great stuff there. So make sure you check that one out tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And just kind of an advanced notice here. This just came out yesterday if you saw the email, but the Royal Page National Kickoff virtually is going to be on January the 10th. Again, Phil Soper will be there doing his update, and as well, Hamzan Khan getting the right things done, a guide to achieving more without burning out. Sounds like a good one to me. I think we all need some of that. That's going to be coming up on January 10th, so make sure you book off your calendars for that. Again, all of these things are available if you go to the Royal Page Network here, and even just looking at the calendar, you can see all of the different upcoming trainings and events right on the calendar. And again, I think it was another one through RLP. .ca/training is a good one for any of the additional training things there. I just want to show you that one. Learning services and all these different kind of workshops, all through royalpage.ca/training. And so I can register all of these wonderful ones there. Okay, so lots of great stuff coming from Royal Page. Another quick kind of final reminder about this Friday. For those of you, again, for quick reminders, we have a primetime advisory council, or sorry, advisory committee, so we call our PTAC. They are meeting, we're having our last meeting of the year on this Friday. This is just, again, just reminders who's on our current advisory council. Thank you very much to all those wonderful people for all their hard work. And you can see here, if you click on the link, this is all on the hub. You can kind of see just a brief agenda on what we're going to be talking about. I actually need to add one because we're going to be talking about awards and top achievers for next year. I'm going to throw that into the mix. But if there's anything that you see on there that you want to add to the agenda, or you have some questions or concerns or anything like that, you can go, if we go back here, there's a button here, ask a question. If you want to see something added to the agenda, this is all 100% anonymous. Now it says my login here because it's not shared, but anyways, for yours, it will say it's not shared, and you can type in your question if you want to see something added to the agenda, have a question you want to see brought up by that committee, or again, if you want to be part of the committee for 2022, you can either do it this way here or contact Cassandra, and she will add you to the list of nominees for candidates on being part of the advisory committee for next year. On Friday, the committee itself, I have no part in it. The committee itself will be choosing whether to expand, whether to shrink their committee, and who they're going to add to it. So again, it's something that's not involved in that decision. The committee is going to be making all those decisions for their own committee. Makes sense, right? So I guess if you want to be a part of that, we've had a number of people ask to be part of it. It's kind of your last call right now, because we're going to meet on Friday and select the new members for 2022. So make sure you do that before Friday, please. All right. Couple what would you do's here. Some scenarios. I think this one is probably the easiest of them all, but offers accepted, right? The listing agent calls you and says, hey, your condition you wrote doesn't have a deadline. Can you please add one in? And they said, they try to pull the legalese. Well, every condition must have a deadline. Well, yes, they're supposed to if you have a brain. But in this case, the agent didn't write a deadline, and the listing agent accepted the offer. So what happens? Well, the condition is open until the end of time, or it's open until possession date, technically, right? So if you write a financing condition in, or subject to whatever secondary viewing or something like that, and there's no deadline, that means it's possession date. So that thing is open, and so the listing agent says, "Well, I need to add in a deadline." The answer could be, "Well, you accepted the offer, you didn't catch it." The answer is no. In this case, everybody was reasonable about it, and they put on a reasonable deadline. But anyways, you have to make sure you watch out for those things. Read as a listing agent, you got to catch that. And if you accept or advise your client to accept an offer without modifying that condition without a deadline, you've done a disservice to your client, right? So just be aware. Don't just take things for granted. Make sure you read your clauses. In a similar vein, this also happened. A buyer's agent writes an amendment to an offer. So again, we have accepted offer, and they want to make some changes after it's accepted, right? They wanted to add on a condition. They're like, "Oh yeah, I wanted to write a home inspection condition, but I forgot about it." And interestingly enough, because this was one of those anomalies right now in our market where the house, it wasn't selling. So long story short, the buyer or the seller, agreed and said, "Fine, if you want an inspection, get an inspection." So could have told them to go fly a kite because they didn't put in the original offer. It's accepted, so it's a legally binding contract. But in this case, again, people calmer heads prevailed, and but then this is what the buyer's agent, not ours, wrote: subject to home inspection being done by November 20th, 2021. Okay, so what happens here, right? All they have to do is get a home inspection by November 20th, and I made up the date here, but that's it. There's no satisfaction. That doesn't talk about the expense, nothing, right? So it's just a horribly worded clause. And in this case, again, the way it's worded, if they were to get the home inspection and they try to back out or renegotiate a price, guess what? Tough luck, because it doesn't say to the buyer's satisfaction. It just says subject to home inspection being done. But once the home inspection is done, condition is fulfilled, right? So all this to say, pay attention to your clause writing, for crying out loud. We're getting paid a lot of money to do our jobs. We're professionals, right? So now, fortunately, both of these morons that were not out, not in our office. So that's good news. But it's just some of them shocking what's out there. And again, this does play to the advantage of the seller and our clients in both these situations. So I know we would never do this, right? But if it's going on out there, make sure you're really making sure your clauses are tight, making sure your conditions are tight, and that you actually write them properly. I'm going to kind of recap at the end here. All right, situation number 2 or 3. We've talked about disclosures a number of times, but this one was a little interesting. But you're the listing agent, and the vendors are requesting you do not disclose a horizontal crack in the foundation. Now in this term, it was a rental property, and they said, well, you know, so we're not going to provide a PDS because it's a rental property and there's this crack behind the wall. What do you have to do? So in general, let's go through some of the scenarios. Number one, if the crack is open and all to see, what happens? Is there anything to disclose? Right? We'll talk about that in a sec. Number two, what if it's completely covered up? Right? So what if there's a crack behind the wall? It's completely covered up. Sellers know it's there. Horizontal crack in the foundation. So number two. So number three, what if it's partially covered? What if there's like a portion of a crack and there's just like one section of the wall is open, there's just this horizontal crack and it keeps going? We don't even know, potentially, right? And what if there's a rental and there's no PDS provided? Right? So we'll talk about each of these scenarios here. And I just put in here as well, if there was a PDS, this is what the question is, right? So is there any cracking, shift, or movement of the structure, including the foundation walls and basement floor, that it's not readily visible, right? So here's what you need to remember, right? Remember that your fiduciary duty to your client is that you must disclose material latent defects, right? Now, this is actually to anyone. It says client there, but actually it is customer. Material latent defects, anyone, customer, client, open house, whatever it is, you have to disclose material latent defects. Material latent defects are, again, hidden defects in the property. That's what latent means, and material meaning that's a health or safety or structural concern. Okay, so for each of these, we have to look through it. Is it structural in nature or is it a safety concern? And is it hidden? Right. So if we actually back up a second here, if it's open for all to see, the horizontal crack, there's nothing to disclose. You can see the wall, use your own eyes, away you go. Now, one person asked, what if it's patched? So if there's an open crack and they take whatever it is, some concrete compound or whatever it is, it's another compound called Zypex, and you can just like kind of run along and patch this crack. Does it still have to be disclosed? Well, in my opinion, if it's obvious and you can see that there's a crack behind this patchwork, you know, because most of the time it's a big lumpy thing that's going to stick out like stucco, you're going to see it. There's nothing to disclose. It's readily visible. If it somehow hides it, right? Again, that's the big thing. It's hidden. If you can't see the crack anymore, if you can't see that that crack was there, then you're probably going to have to disclose. Right. And that would be scenario number two. If it's completely covered up, you definitely have to offer that information if there is, because again, it's hidden and it's a structural concern because it's a horizontal crack in the foundation. Now I'll just chase this rabbit. What if it's a vertical crack? If it's a vertical crack, is it structural anymore? Right. And the jury would be out on that one, depending on how bad it is. If it's like so bad that there's like light shining through it, you probably, and the house is split in half, you'd probably not win that battle. But if it's just a standard vertical crack, you can make the strong argument that that's not a structural issue. So it does not mean that the house is failing structurally, right? Anyways, if it's partially covered, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. It would depend on the seller's knowledge of that crack. If they know, hey, that thing goes through the whole wall, because we opened up that one section last year and that section the year before that, and all that's showing right now is one in the middle. If the seller knows it goes at length, I'd probably advise that they do disclose the severity of the crack, because again, especially when we're talking about PDSs and disclosures, it's the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God kind of stuff. If it's misleading in any way, the seller's going to be on the hook. So I'd probably recommend in that case, it's partially covered and the extent of the crack is known, to disclose it. If it's not known, well, then there's nothing, you don't know it, so you can't disclose it, right? You can't disclose what you don't know. But if it's partially covered, you can see it there. I leave it open for them. But if the seller does know the extent, they should disclose the extent. And of course, if it's a rental and no PDS provided, and all those essentially, I think we've already covered those. Regardless of the PDS, if it's a rental and you don't provide a PDS, follow the previous comments and steps there that I talked about. That makes sense, right? So if either answer is no to any of these, if it's structural nature, not a safety concern, it does not be volunteered. If it's hidden, and the answer is no, it's not hidden, it's open, disclosure is not necessary. Now, quick little reminder, if discussing with a client, right, the definition of material changes, right, and what you owe your client. So material, when talking to a client, not a customer, means any information your client would base a decision upon, which is essentially everything, right? So if you knew the extent of that crack to a client, you would have to tell them that. If you knew there was a vertical crack in the wall, even though it's not a material latent defect from that definition, your client would need to know that information. If you know there's a vertical crack behind the wall, you would have to disclose that to your client, right? So there's always a difference in material, what material means when talking, what a seller has to disclose to everyone, to customers, to clients, and then what material means to you disclosing to a client. Hope that makes sense. Hope I didn't confuse anyone. But if it's your buyer and you have to tell them everything you know about the property that would influence their decision. So just a quick recap of some best practices with those sort of situations. Number one, of course, conditions must include when you're writing these things. Now, again, if somebody on the other end writes a bad condition that's to the benefit of your seller and they wrote a poorly worded condition and it works out for your seller, don't correct them, accept it and let them be dumb and your client can benefit. But if you're writing these, conditions must include who's doing what, by when, who's paying, and to whom's satisfaction. Again, and by when. I said by when twice, but just do by when once. Number two, be very aware of terms and conditions, little things. Most of the time, these things do work themselves out, but we just had a time there was written in a condition, the seller must fix such and such a thing before possession date, and was written as a condition rather than a term, right? So technically that offer is conditional upon until possession. Now, it's not what either party wanted, so they worked it out and they just made it a term, they moved it, but be aware, again, condition versus term, big deal, right? One is a promise that something must get done. If it doesn't get done, they can be sued, right? And a condition is, hey, I can get out of the deal if you don't do it. So two different things, be very aware of terms and conditions on what buying end and listing end. And of course, wrapping up, know the difference between customer versus client, of course, and what material means to each one. Any questions, comments on any of those things while we're discussing them? I'll give it a quick sec. I'll have a drink. Alrighty, cool. So I'm going to go through a wonderful book. The book is called exactly that, Exactly What to Say. It's a book written by Phil Jones and Chris Smith and contributed by Jimmy Mackin, which are the founders of Curator. And Phil Jones wrote a book called Exactly What to Say, and it was about in terms of sales in general. And then these guys all kind of collaborated and wrote one specifically for real estate agents. So read the book, made the notes. I'm going to share them with you so that you don't have to read the 246 pages. All you got to do is listen up for a few minutes. And you can learn some magic phrases to unlock some better conversations. So conversation is everything, right? We talked about this from a prospecting standpoint. We don't, we can't prospect unless we initiate conversations, right? We've yet to sell a house in our history without having a conversation with someone. We need to have conversations with people, and conversations, the quality of your conversation dictates the quality of your relationship, right? So we know that's what life is about. It's about conversations, and having better conversations is going to lead to better things, right? So if you want better conversations, you got to ask better questions. I got to give a shout out to my wife on this one. Joey is amazing at asking great questions. She just like peppers people with questions. And sometimes you want to go, but it's great because she just creates such natural conversations with people and is genuinely curious and wants to know everything about their lives. She asks great questions and I love her for it because somebody's got to do it. And she does a great job. So the other thing with conversation is, let's come at it from even a negotiation standpoint or from a salesy standpoint. Who controls a conversation? Right. I just been watching a little bit of the trial there at Rittenhouse. So who controls the conversation? Well, the lawyer who's asking the questions controls the conversation, right? If you're asking questions, you're the one who is controlling the conversation. Think about getting pulled over by the police. They're asking a whole bunch of questions. They're in control, right? You're not. So if you want a bit more control, you want to steer somebody a certain way, it's about asking questions, right? No one likes to be told things, but if you can ask questions, make them think, you can control and steer the conversation. So all that to say is better questions, better conversations, right? Because questions, we know, start conversations. Conversations start relationships. Relationships create opportunities. And opportunities, of course, lead to people making a decision, right? And that leads to sales. So let's go over a few of them here. And we're going to give some real life case scenarios. But this is number one. I'm not sure if this is for you, but. Okay. Now, this might be something that you make, again, and all of these phrases, some of them you might be having face-to-face with the client or referral or something like that. Other people might be on a prospecting call or an email, right? So you can slot them into how you would best use this, whether it's over the phone, text, DM, email, but I'm not sure if this is for you, but what it does is it kind of creates a little bit of intrigue and removes some of the pressure. The other person tends to lean in, right? Because if I say, I'm not sure if this is for you, now what are they thinking? Well, is it for me or isn't it for me? I'm not sure. So again, it creates a little bit of intrigue, right? So some real life examples, right? I'm not sure if this is for you, but there's a listing around the corner or a listing on the street that may be a really good fit for you. I'm not sure if this is for you, but when the time is right, I'd be delighted to help you get the best price for your home, right? So that might be something for, you know, if you do some prospecting calls. I'm not for sure this is for you, but I have a great resource if you're thinking of refinancing, or I have a great resource if you're thinking about improving your kitchen, right? You can use this in all kinds of endless ways, especially if you're trying to create some people into your database. I'm not sure if this is for you, but I have a wonderful newsletter that comes out every month that gives somebody blah, 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 and gives you tips and tricks on how to buy and sell real estate in Winnipeg, right? I'm not sure if it's for you, but good luck. Who do you know at, right? This is, again, I've talked about this one a lot, but instead of, you know, asking the question, you know, do you know someone, you know, looking to buy or sell a house, or do you know anyone? The answers are yes and no. It's a closed question. Who do you know at starts with an open-ended question, right? It makes the other person think. If you add the at word in there, and I've shared this before, but if I ask you, who do you know who might be interested in selling a house? Well, who do you know? I think of, you know, how many people do I really know? I know hundreds, thousands of people, right? So your brain just has nowhere to really lock in. But if you are a bit more specific and ask, hey, who do you know at work that might be interested in selling their home next year? Or who do you know at work or at baseball or at church or whatever that might be interested in moving next year? Or who do you know at work who might be the next person to make a move, right? It makes somebody think, but when you say at, it narrows their thinking so they can actually think specifically, right? So who do you know at work that may be considering downsizing? Who do you know at church that may be considering investing in real estate? Who do you know at baseball that might be looking to move into this neighborhood, right? So who do you know at? I love this question. I've used this one before, and it typically does work quite well. How open-minded would you be to something, right? The psychology behind this is that the vast majority of people want to be considered open-minded. The book says 90%, right? So 9 out of 10 people want to be considered open-minded. Does anybody love being a closed-minded person, right? Now, whether you know somebody who's closed-minded or not, that's another story, but people don't want to be considered closed-minded, right? They want to be considered open-minded. So this naturally leads them to a yes rather than some sort of coin flip, yes or no. So how open-minded would you be to some sort of idea? So how open-minded would you be to look at other neighborhoods, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? How open-minded would you be to lowering your asking price, right? How open-minded would you be to listing your home while the market is strong, right? And you can just go time and time and fill in the blank there. But how open-minded would you be is a fantastic question, great for emails as well. Speaking of emails, this is definitely more of an email follow-up or potentially like a sign call type of question or type of phrase, but it's essentially, it's called opening fact question. It's how you respond to an inquiry. So 3 steps to answering inquiries. So the example, the opening would be a thank you or some sort of, you know, greeting, salutation, right? Thank you for contacting me. That's opening. Fact, I understand you're looking for an evaluation on your home, right? Fact, you contacted me because, or you're interested, I see that you're interested in 123 Main Street, right? Fact, question, may I ask what specifically led you to contacting me? Question, right? So that's just a relatively 3-step format for answering inquiries, right? So as I mentioned here, hi, it's Michael from Roll the Page. Greeting, you recently showed interest in 123 Main Street. Is this the only property you're interested in? Right. Hello, it's Mike from RMP. May not know me, but I've sold many homes in your area. Notice you're looking to sell for Main Street. Is this still available? Maybe that's for a FSBO, right? So there's lots of different little ways you can use this as well when you are, again, I think it's really good answering an inquiry, especially over email or some sign call. What is your experience? You know, what is your experience with, or what is your experience? Yeah. This one I like, sorry, I'm just going somewhere else in my mind here for a second. But what is your experience with, it avoids getting drilled point blank questions about price, commissions, etc. When you ask, you know, and what I mean by this is, well, what is your experience with, I'll give you some examples here, with selling a home. What is your experience with timing the market? What is your experience with working with a professional? right? And if you have to make sure your tone is okay with this. Like, well, what's your experience? Well, then you sound like a little brat, right? But if it's, or maybe you could rephrase a little bit, say like, tell me about your experience with selling a home. What is your experience with selling a home in this type of market? And, so this one might be a parent killer, as far as a parent's looking at with the first time buyer and they're talking about this. And, wait, what's your experience been with buying a home in this market? None, right? Awesome, thanks. So you don't know anything, right? So anyways, you can use it carefully, careful of your tone, but ask me, what's your experience with this type of a product? Or what's your experience with this? And it does tend to shut down some of those people who are maybe the know-it-alls, etc. Similar vein, what is your understanding about, right? Or how do you understand this market? Right? What is your understanding about this market right now, Mr. and Mrs. Parent, who's looking after their kid, who thinks that the houses are still worth $200,000, right? So this does sort of question the basis of the know-it-all, right? And when done with tact, hopefully the other person will talk to themselves into admitting that they actually don't have sufficient knowledge, right? So this kind of gets out some of those imposters if somebody is posturing, right? And again, do this with tact, do it with grace. So what is your experience? What is your understanding about are two great questions. So if you have somebody who's knowing it all about, I'm just thinking of a few different situations here. So what is your understanding about the home buying process, right? What is your understanding about me and my company and what we do differently than others? What is your understanding about the ways we determine a price? My grammar's off here. What is your understanding about the ways we determine a price at which to price? Really bad here. What is your understanding about the ways we determine a price at which to market your home? Bad grammar, good point. Sorry about that. Right. So what is your understanding about this? And hopefully people will just like, well, you know what, this is what I understand. And maybe they're accurate. Maybe they're not, but remember, people want to feel understood, right? People want to feel heard. So if you ask them, what is your understanding? They're going to tell you what they understand. And now you actually have a good understanding of them and they're going to feel heard and they're going to have to open the door to be able to close, to be able to insert your opinion, et cetera. You're not going to be able to talk at them. You'll be talking with them because you have a good understanding, right? I think that's a great question. How important is, right? I think a lot of us use this one. How important is getting a home sold quickly? How important is that extra bedroom? How important is finding the perfect home before you list this one? Right? How much does it mean to you? How important really is this? That's a good one. How would you feel if? Now this one you could use this one with a bit of tact. Now I'm not saying that there to be a fear monger, but in general, people act out of fear more than they act out of positive emotions. It's just kind of a fact of life, right? The fear of pain is greater than the thrill of gain, right? So some people don't want to lose, right? Sometimes like the thrill of victory, but they hate losing. People like hate losing more than they love winning, right? So this allows you to create a little bit of a drastic contrast, right? So as an example here, how would you feel, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if the buyer decides to walk? Right? A lot of times, we say, well, the buyer might go, the buyer might run away. But if you ask, how would you feel if this buyer decided to walk? You're going to get a great answer because either they're going to say, I'm going to feel just fine about it and I'm going to move on with my life. Okay, now I know where they're at. Or because you're tapping into the emotions of it, how do you feel? It's not what you think about it. It's how do you feel if the buyer decided to walk? Maybe they start to go, oh man, how do I feel? I get a little worried, a little scared that maybe somebody else doesn't come along, right? You're kind of tapping into that emotional side. Because remember, in sales, people buy emotionally, justify logically. Right? How would you feel if we lost the chance to buy this home? How would you feel if 3 months from now your home was still in the market? How would you feel after you do your pricing presentation? How would you feel if you were the only, if you were at 14 days on the market or 21 days on the market and all the other ones have sold? How would you feel? Right? It taps into the emotional side. Just imagine. And again, I want to quickly stop and say, you're going to get all these in the slides, so you'll have all of them, so you don't have to, write them all down. And of course, it's recorded. But just imagine is a nice one to, again, people live and they operate emotionally. And again, what they can picture in the future and get a vision and using their imagination is a powerful thing, right? And if they can imagine something, they can create emotion behind it. You're on your way. So it jumps in the time machine. Just imagine, fast forward 6 years down the road and little Jimmy's playing soccer over here. How is it going to feel, right? You can kind of combine some of these, but just imagine, right? Just imagine what life will be like when you're moved in. Just imagine yourself in their shoes. Great one for what if you were the buyer, right? Some people think that's a ridiculous request, right? How could they ask me to fix my windows or paint the fence, right? Well, just imagine yourself in their shoes, right? Just imagine what it's going on to feel like when a buyer walks in and the home is perfectly staged, right? Just imagine. How certain are you? Again, this is sort of a testing of the grounds for a knowledge base, but it does potentially create doubt in their mind about their credibility. So this is like an objection overcomer, right? So example, how certain are you that he or she has expertise to get your home sold for the highest sale price, right? So that's maybe, I'm going to go with a different agent. I'm going to go with, my brother who just started, or my friend who I've been waiting for them to get their license, even though you've shown me 25 homes, right? Well, how certain are you that she has the expertise to get this done? And what that does, as soon as you say, how certain are you, instantly, if you just even say it to yourself, or I'm saying it to you right now, how certain are you? You automatically cast doubt, right? So this is a great one to turn the tables. If you have somebody who's potentially, again, has a strong objection to something, you can create some doubt in their mind about their decision. How certain are you the agent has the experience to get you the best outcome? How certain are you that you will receive a better offer? How certain are you that a lower cost option will actually net you more money overall? Right, so that's a good one for your yellow sticks and all that kind of stuff, for a cheaper agent who's trying to discount. How certain are you that discounting, that removing the marketing budget is going to get you more money? Cast it out. So anyways, that is part one, because we have another like 13 magic phrases. I think there's 26 overall. So we did half of them today. We're going to finish up the other ones next week. But again, I encourage you to review this up. Cass is going to send out the slides, but a lot of these, when you're writing emails today, just keep some of these in front of you, print them out if you need to do it. But it's just amazing how quickly, one phrase, one word can completely shift somebody's attitude. It can change somebody's mind just by changing our words. So hope you enjoyed those ones. Hope you got a couple nuggets out of it, and we'll finish up those ones next week. Last thing, quick reminder, RSVP, Christmas party, it's coming around the corner. It's going to be fantastic. RSVP to Cass. The link was in the agenda and every agenda for the past 6 weeks. So it's all in there, and it's also on the hub. Numerous ways to find it. Check it out. And again, last call for your primetime advisory committee. If you want to join that or have any questions or comments, go to the hub. The link is in the agenda as well, but go to the hub. You can check it out there and either volunteer or ask any questions. That's it for this week. Take care of it. And if somebody has any questions, I'll give it a quick minute. All right, hearing and seeing none. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and we'll see you again soon. Take care. Oh, I see a Q&A. Thanks. Not a question, but that's good. Appreciate it, Trevor. All right, have a good week, guys.